Hey, how are you doing today? And welcome to another This Is Living video where we talk about different types of subjects, topics, things that usually affect us in our daily lives because we want to keep it a little bit more personal. And as personal as it can get, we have to cover today the topic of gaming, at least from one point of view. And of course, we cannot exhaust this topic in one 10-15 minute video. But it's something that we are pretty much familiar with, especially if you're familiar with our main channel, which is a World of Warcraft oriented channel. Now, there's been a lot of stigma around gaming as a culture because at this point, we could say that gaming kind of transitioned into a culture, the culture of gaming. And it's been rising over the last couple of decades, and you might have been on the receiving end of said stigma. I know I have, living in Romania. It's a little bit further behind most of the Western countries in terms of social development. It's not bad, okay? I'm not trying to make it sound like a third world country. It's pretty great to be here. We have a lot of the things, like a lot of material things that a lot of other countries have, but the social mentality is not on the same level. I don't want to say that it's lower, but it's different, right? Certain things haven't entered in our culture just yet, and gaming is one of them that entered maybe 10-20 years later than in other countries. And only in the last decade, I know, gaming has started to, be a little bit more obvious, right? When I was growing up, my parents were like, why are you playing games all day? Just go outside, right? That kind of mentality, right? But that was mostly in school. Before that, when the first consoles came into Romania, like we had PlayStation 1 and the Sega Genesis, I think, console, we had some really cheap knockoffs as well. But that's usually what I grew up with. It was fun as a family kind of thing, but my folks were always just go outside or study or read a book, don't play games all day. Now, we're going to be talking about a couple of the benefits that gaming have. And when I say gaming, I don't just mean video games, although that's probably a big part of the conversation, but I mean gaming in general. It can be games as board games, chess, sports even, because the term of game, I think it definitely has different uses, different connotations, and I would say, I'm not sure if this is the correct way to say it, but sub-definition, I don't know. It can be video games, it can be sports. Sports are not usually called games, but when the first ball was invented and people were starting kicking it around, that was basically a game, right? And then it evolved into a professional sport like we have today. As we can see with esports as well, right? We're seeing more and more professional scenes coming for gaming, games like shooters, like MOBAs, like now even with our World of Warcraft, we have MMOs that shoot up in the esports scene. Mostly WoW. I actually haven't heard of a lot of other MMOs. So, but first to get something very obvious out of the way, and I'm not talking about excessive gaming here, because excuse me, anything in excess is very damaging for yourself. Like, you can say that jogging is healthy for your body because it's workout, you move around in the sedentary lifestyle that we have today. But if you would jog like 10 hours a day, you would end up really hurting yourself, damaging your knees, damaging your legs, causing muscle pains, tears, and whatever medical complications can arise, will arise from anything that you do in excess. So I'm not talking about excessive gaming. I'm talking about gaming in general, like moderate gaming. I would say kind of like a hobby, right? Please excuse my cough. I have something in my lungs. Actually, I don't have anything based on my doctors. I have a really good doctor. So this is what we want to, explore and maybe talk about this. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. Like, I am still putting everything into perspective in my mind. Like, what is gaming? Is gaming actually something beneficial? And I think it is, but some people take it too far, of course. And usually the stigma revolves around that. Most people that I've encountered and they view gaming as a negative thing that you can do with your free time don't really understand the benefits of the gaming, and they always think that gaming is a waste of time because, well, how do you characterize a waste of time, right? Something that you invest that returns nothing back to you, right? You gain nothing. Excuse me, but that's not actually true, right? You gain a whole slew of benefits, and there have been numerous studies, medical studies even, as to what benefits gaming can have for you. So right now I'm just trying to open up a conversation with you guys and you can leave a comment down below, discuss your experiences. Hopefully we get more people to talk about this. So yeah, we're not talking about excessive gaming. We're talking about gaming as a hobby, gaming as, let's say, I like reading books in my free time. I like playing video games in my free time. The first few benefits that I've noticed for myself were on the creative department. I started to be more creative. I started to be able to solve puzzles, because most games present you with problems that you need to solve in the forms of an actual puzzle, if you're playing a puzzle game, in the forms of clues, something that you need to uncover and search and, you know, act like a little bit of a detective. In certain games you do that. You solve mysteries, you find little pieces that you put together until a big picture is formed. There are other more subtle puzzles that get you thinking, that actually, there's been a study, I don't remember exactly the name of the study, but there have been neurological studies on your brain when you play video games. It apparently increases the gray matter in your brain. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'm not a biology enthusiast, but there's been increases in cerebral activity in the cerebellum, in the other parts of the brain that I'm too silly to remember. I know I just read it about a couple of hours ago. It was really interesting because gaming stirs up your brain and you get more brain activity. Essentially, you work out. And one of the major things that I found really interesting was that gaming prevents aging, at least in terms of your mind, right? Because we know as we age, naturally our mind deteriorates a little bit. So to keep it sharp, people over the years have read a lot of books, have done studies, have researched. Like you see old people today doing work in the science field, right? Like, I mean, why does my uncle twice removed talk to the wall when somebody 10 years older than him does, you know, astronomy studies, or is an astronomer basically, or an astrophysicist or whatever, right? You know what I mean. But that's basically what I want to point out. When you work your brain ages slower than normal. And gaming is one way to work your brain, because you keep having to solve problems. And like I mentioned, one of those other problems is playing a complex video game, let's say like World of Warcraft, right? When you're trying to play a game and you're trying to understand the mechanism behind it and try to improve, because when you try to improve, you're trying to overcome a specific obstacle, such as your own skill level that doesn't let you acquire something specific within a game, and you try to see, okay, I can be that much faster, I can be that much attentive, I can remember one or two extra things. So little things that seem very, very obscure actually come into play here. Gaming has been proven to, you know, improve memory, the overall memory and the capacity for you to store information, especially 3D games apparently, due to how they're designed and how they're presenting information. Not to mention, we already know the things about, you know, shooters being able to increase the hand-eye coordination of players and also increase their reflexes, right? The speed of their reflexes. That's really cool, right? We can also talk about strategic skills that you can learn through games, because there's also, you know, there are the RTS genre, the real-time strategy, and the turn-based strategy games, where you have turn-based strategy is basically chess, right? Chess has been developed into turn-based strategy games all across the board. You have all sorts of games, and it, you know, it puts you in a situation like, okay, I have these pieces, which can be armies, which can be heroes, which can be whatever game you play, and I have to move them in a specific way to win over my opponent, right? That's basically chess, right? It's a more, let's say, pretty and shiny and flamboyant version of chess. So I don't use just, you know, the same old 3 words in my vocabulary. But it is chess nonetheless, because, you know, you're trying to, you make a move, your opponent makes a move, you try to counteract their move, try to predict their move, try to make them predict your moves wrongfully, and such and such. So that's basically what I think turn-based strategies are, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Of course, real-time strategies are more like, you know, I wouldn't say them wartime games, because, you know, in war you don't have a turn, your opponent doesn't wait for you. But again, it lets you make, it increases and improves your decision making, because you don't have all the time in the world to think about what your next move is. You have to do the move now. So it increases, like games like StarCraft. It's been very popularized, especially starting with South Korea. It's been popularized all around the world as probably, if I'm not mistaken, yes, it is the biggest RTS esport game. Basically meaning that people are playing it competitively, professionally, being sponsored, having salaries. There are now universities that have stemmed from this industry, so it's really cool. And StarCraft has been mostly characterized as a chess on steroids. And of course, you have to make a couple of decisions every few seconds. So it's very intense, very fast paced, and you wouldn't be able to play it if it didn't improve some form of, first reflexes, decision making, strategy thinking, all things like that. And adding on top of the benefits, there are numerous medical conditions that can be improved through gaming. Things like dyslexia, autism, trouble reading, lazy eyes, things like these have been, studied upon, and people realize that, playing games, of course, again, at a moderate, within moderation, of course, can improve all of these. And of course, let's not avoid the elephant in the room. Gaming can first improve social skills. I personally have started playing games when I was a little kid, but I really got into gaming when I was in high school because I had problems making friends, I've had problems talking to people, so I just retreated into gaming to cope with certain things. Although that can help you stabilize you mentally, it's maybe not the best solution, but what it helped me do is basically be able to communicate with people, get along with people that people that were aiming for the same goal as me. Because if you play, let's say, like an online game, you get to, fight towards the same goal with other people, and you learn to cooperate and, act as a team. And there's a very special TED talk that I just remembered, and I think I will link it down below. It's by a game designer. I only remember her last name, McGonagall. Was it Jane? Julie? I don't remember exactly the whole. It was years ago when I looked at it, and she was advocating online gaming. She was a game designer, probably still is. It's about 10 years old at this point, I think. And the history and the background that she gave on her speech was incredible. And that was probably the first time that I've started to contemplate that, gaming can have other values except pure entertainment. It has all of these cool benefits. And this is kind of one of what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to open up for discussion. Talk with your friends, talk with your families. If you're a gamer as well, try to understand that, gaming is more than just entertaining. It has actual positive benefits, and as long as you don't keep it in excess. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think of gaming? Is it something that helped you in life? Did it help some specific aspects of your life go through a specific difficult period? Because it does do that for a lot of people. So tell us your story down below in the comments and share with us what you have been going through when it comes to your gaming experience. Thanks for watching the video, and see you in the next one.